When Acoustic Energy decided to create a 40th anniversary edition of its AE1 loudspeaker, it didn't design a latest and greatest version. Instead, the company decided to go back in time to recreate both the look and the sound of the original. As Acoustic Energy puts it, there was no room for wild variation from the original design. Each element had to be crafted to sound the same as the old, and while we smoothed off some rougher edges, it was with a very light touch so as not to destroy what was great about the original design. So is the $1,999 per pair AE1 40th anniversary a real blast from the past? Or is it just a middle-aged makeover? Let's find out. I'm Aaron Jenkins, and here on the Absolute Sounds YouTube channel, I review entry-level products, as well as products that will work in real-world, often shared spaces. Acoustic Energy was founded in the mid-1980s by bass player and speaker designer Phil Jones, who developed the original AE1 as a studio monitor before realizing its potential in the home audio realm. The speaker was very highly regarded in its day for high power handling, low distortion, impressive sound staging, and good for the size bass, and formed the foundation of a company that's still designing and building speakers in England in the 2020s. The 40th anniversary, as mentioned, is intended to recreate the original. And as far as looks go, the most noticeable difference between new and old is that the originals have holes on the front baffle to secure their fabric grills. The 40th anniversary uses hidden magnets. Otherwise, the metal cone woofer sports the same conical dust cap and the same curved mounting plate. The metal dome tweeter sits in the same large circular metal plate covered by the same metal mesh, and there are two small ports on the front baffle. These drivers and ports, plus what the company describes as a small, strong, heavy cabinet, defined the vision for the 40th anniversary. Dig deeper, of course, and you'll discover that all the hard parts are new. Where the original AE1 cabinets were lined with a latex-based concrete, the 40th anniversary uses Acoustic Energy's resonance suppression composite material, sandwiched between two layers of HDF to deaden resonances. The new cabinet is stiffer than the original and is available in gloss black or this very glossy and very handsome walnut veneer. The drivers were designed specifically for the 40th anniversary. The tweeter dome is made of aluminum and is cooled by ferrofluid, just like the original, but it's 29 millimeters in diameter compared to the original's 25, or 1.1 inch versus 1. The new two-way crossover divides the audio signal at 2800 Hz. The woofer is also a larger version of the original, growing from 4.5 to 5 inches. Like the original, the cone itself has a straight profile and is made of aluminum with a hard anodized ceramic layer on both sides. The most significant changes were the addition of a shorting ring in the motor to reduce distortion, and spinning rather than pressing the aluminum to form the cone itself. Acoustic Energy rates the AE1 40th anniversary's frequency range as 50 to 45,000 Hz, plus or minus 6 decibels. Resistance is 6 ohms, sensitivity is 87 dB at 1 meter at 2.83 volts, and maximum power is 150 volts. Size-wise, each speaker comes in at about 11.5 inches high, about 7 inches wide, 9.5 inches deep, and weighs about 15.5 pounds. Two comments about setup. First, Acoustic Energy recommends the top of the speaker be aligned just below the listener's head, and you'll know if your head is too high because you'll feel like you're looking down on the music, as if from a balcony. Second, despite its front ports, the AE1s sound their best when given some breathing room from the front wall. Acoustic Energy recommends a minimum of 1/2 meter, or about 20 inches, which is where I ended up placing them. I listened to the AE1s with the NAD C389 and Rogue Audio Cronus Dark integrated amplifiers, the former streaming high-res digital to the latter via a Darwin Cable Company interconnect, with AudioQuest power conditioning and power and speaker cables. In addition to describing the goal of sounding like the original, the owner's manual that comes with the 40th anniversary contains a broader statement about the company's sonic ideals, noting that its products must meet its internal standards for dynamics, transparency, tonal accuracy, and above all, musical involvement. I kept that description in mind since I've never heard an original A1, so can't speak to the 40th anniversary's fidelity to it. But I have spent a lot of time listening to modern bookshelf speakers, such as the B&W 705S3, Dali Oberon 3, Golden Ear BRX, and Monitor Audio Studio 89, and have a good sense of what the breed has to offer. So I'll just say it up front. The AE1s are different. Most noticeably, their overall sound is led by a clear forward and noticeably warm mid-range. This warmth adds expressiveness to vocals and a golden glow to brass, and its intentional deviation from neutrality feels more like character than simple coloration, at least if you like it. I imagine many listeners will find it to be too much of a good thing, or too distracting, or maybe even just inaccurate. The mid-range clarity allows you to listen deep into the music, revealing low-level details that add to the speaker's excellent overall presentation of realism, of believability. The presentation also feels very well fleshed out. Cootie Williams' trumpet is reproduced with richness and presence, as are the bows, strings, and instruments of Quartetto Cassell's take on Bach's The Art of Fugue. This warmth and clarity extends further down in the frequency range, where both acoustic and electric bass notes gleam. Bass is rich and full, although its extension is limited. The AE1s deliver very strong output for a 5-inch woofer in a small box. When pressed hard, they were happy to belt out Yellow's Oh Yeah up to around 90 decibels without strain, and they may well go higher, but that's as loud as I played them. Big dynamic swings are handled with ease, and while you won't feel the impact of drum strikes, you'll usually hear them, although I did notice often when only the upper frequencies of a kick or kettle drum were reproduced. The AE1's treble is clear and precise, adding shimmer and air to vocals and sharply defining cymbals and flutes and piccolos. Like the bass, the treble smoothly blends into the mid-range, adding to the speaker's sonic coherence. In terms of detail, the AE1s are precise and tight, but not at all analytical. There's a real sense of nimble ease, with both initial attack and decay sounding smooth and natural. And yes, I'm aware I'm repeating those adjectives. But when, for example, the symphony suddenly pauses in the first movement of Beethoven's Ninth, the sound of the strings fades away cleanly and clearly inside the recording venue. And the AE1s are also excellent at recreating acoustic space, of rendering a wide, deep, and tall sound space. Their sound staging is also great, with musicians and instruments precisely arranged and clearly defined. Now let me backtrack a bit. I described the AE1s as clear and detailed, and they are, but they do lag behind some of those modern bookshelf speakers I mentioned when it comes to low noise floor, transparency, resolution, and musical nuance. This isn't to say the AE1s aren't sufficiently clear or detailed at their price point, or that they're somehow hazy or muddled. They just fell a little short of what I've come to expect, which, like the warmth, may be part of the speaker's loyalty to the original. And in any case, these modest qualifiers take nothing away from the speaker's greatest strength: musical engagement. Their combination of timing, precision, the large sound space, tonal richness, sense of naturalness, and level of detail all combined to really capture the excitement, pleasure, and simple joy of music. I'm a head-nodding, toe-tapping kind of listener, but hearing Elton John's Don't Go Breaking My Heart made me want to get up and dance, the same way that I wanted to play conductor to the overture of Rossini's Barber of Seville. Most often, I just sat back and marveled at the musicianship of Johnny Hodges' main stem and too many other recordings to mention. While these are not the most revealing speakers I've heard, the AE1s do a fantastic job of just getting out of the way and allowing music to work its magic. I think the AE1 40th anniversary delivered on Acoustic Energy's promise of dynamics, transparency, tonal accuracy, and above all, musical involvement. I'll admit the warm character might stretch some listeners' definition of tonal accuracy, but I think it would be difficult to argue with any of the other descriptions, particularly musical involvement. I think these are remarkable speakers as well as a good value, but they are definitely not for everyone. For listeners who prioritize things like the pitch black backgrounds, transparency, and resolving power of something like the much more expensive B&W 705 S3s, or who desire a more neutral tone or balance, or who want to feel as well as hear the bass, the AE1s won't fit the bill. For everyone else, though, these are speakers well worth auditioning.